Hi, in this tutorial we are going to work a little bit more with strings. In previous tutorials we looked at how to create variables which contain data of the string type, so data that contains characters, letters, numbers and other symbols. And in the previous tutorial we also looked at how to use a for loop to go through a string, and we looked at how strings are, or characters in strings are indexed. So for example, if I create a variable which contains a string value, each character in this string is indexed starting from 0. So for example, H has an index position of 0, E has a position 1, L is 2, and so on. So for example, if I wanted to print out the fourth letter or fourth character in this string, I could say print my string, so reference the variable, and then square brackets, I can get the fourth character by using the index 3, remembering that indexing starts at 0. And if I run this code, we'll see the letter L there. So I get 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the fourth character, but we're using the index 3. So that's indexing and using indexing to reference characters in a string. A couple of things that we'll look at today are how to create strings which contain quotes. So for example, let's say I create a string here, and it's going to contain a message which actually contains a quote inside the message. So for example, Joe says hello. Now, the problem I have here is I've created a string variable with a value that is contained inside these double quotes. But inside the string, I actually am quoting somebody, and to do that, I've used double quotes. Now, you'll automatically see that the string value here is green, but at the end of this quote here, Python doesn't know what to do with the rest of this code here. It sees a word hello, and then it sees another string here contained inside quotes. So if we run this code, it says invalid syntax. So we get a syntax error starting right here. Now there's one way of fixing this, and what we could actually do is contain this whole string inside single quotes instead, so that we can have the double quotes here used when we're quoting somebody. So now if we run this code, run it again. Whoops, actually print this out. So that syntax error occurred even before we attempted to print the value of the variable. But now that we've fixed this, let's go and have a look. And we see it says Joe says hello, and we've got our double quotes there. So that's one thing we can do. We can use single quotes to contain a string value that might actually use double quotes inside the string value. Okay, so what then if we wanted to use single quotes inside our message? So for example, this is Joe's code. We'll have the same problem as before. We have a string value that's inside single quotes, but inside our string value that we want to display, we actually have a single quote. And so if we run this, we'll see the same error as before, invalid syntax. And so when Python sees this quote here, it thinks that's the end of the string and then doesn't know what to do with this character S here and the rest of the code. So we could fix that by using double quotes to contain string value. But let's say we want to use both the single quote and the double quote inside our string. So for example, this is Joe's code. Joe says hello. We'll receive the same error as before. We'll have another syntax error, but this can be fixed. So the way that we can fix this is we can actually use 3 single quotes to contain the string. So for example, 3 single quotes at the start and 3 single quotes at the end. Now if we use 3 single quotes at the end, at the beginning and end of the string, that means we can use single quotes like that, and double quotes like this in the string. And so running this code, we shouldn't see any syntax errors. There we go. This is Joe's code. Joe says hello. So that is how we can basically contain string values inside quotes without running into syntax errors when we actually want to use quotes in our string. There is also another way of working around this. So I'm just going to change my code back to using just one single quote at the start and end of the string. And then you'll see that we run into this problem again here where we have this single quote and now it thinks that's the end of the string and doesn't know what to do with the rest of the code. Well, what we can actually do is use a backslash. And so a backslash will actually escape or basically ignore the following quote. Okay, so if we save this code and run it, we'll see that message saying this is Joe's code, and we see the quote there, but we don't see this backslash. And that backslash is an escape character and basically tells Python to ignore the following quote. And we can do that if we're using double quotes to contain the string value as well. We could put a backslash before this double quote here, and we could also put one here as well. And that will tell Python to ignore those two quotes there. And that works as well. So that's an escape character, or backslash used to escape quotes. There's another character we can use to create a new line. So let's say we want to create a new line. So we have one line that says this is Joe's code, and then a new line that says Joe says hello. What we can do is add in \n, which means new line. So if we run this code, we see the first part of the message is displayed on this line, and the second part of the message is displayed on the following line. So those are just a few little tricks when we're working with strings in Python. In future tutorials, we're going to look at how to work with strings even more, like converting to uppercase, converting to lowercase, checking if a string value contains just numbers, and also we'll be working with for loops a little bit more with strings as well. That's it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching.